The invisible thread. The monsoon rain pattered against the library windows, creating a soothing backdrop to the scratching of Prisha Malhotra's pencil across her sketchpad. Other students huddled over textbooks with furrowed brows, but Prisha found peace in the storm. At 21, she was in her third year of architecture school at Delhi University, where she excelled academically but remained a shadow in the social landscape. Her charcoal pencil moved with precision as she sketched the curved lines of a pavilion design. Professor Sharma had assigned a project combining traditional Indian architectural elements with contemporary sustainable practices. While her classmates complained about the complexity, Prisha found it exhilarating. "That's impressive," a voice whispered behind her. Prisha turned to find Nandini, her only close friend, peering over her shoulder. With her vibrant clothes and constant chatter, Nandini was Prisha's opposite in every way. "Thanks," Prisha smiled, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Just preliminary ideas." "Preliminary? It looks professional already." Nandini dropped into the chair beside her. "Speaking of which, are you coming to the Intercollege Showcase tonight? Everyone says Vikram Kapoor's presentation will be the highlight." Prisha's heart gave a small, traitorous flutter at the mention of his name. Vikram Kapoor, senior business student, campus celebrity, and completely unaware of Prisha's existence despite sharing 2 elective classes with her for the past semester. "I don't know," she hesitated. "I have to finish this concept by tomorrow." "Come on, Pry. You can't just live in your sketchbooks forever," Nandini insisted. "Besides, your sustainably designed student housing model is being featured. You should be there to discuss it." That was true. Professor Sharma had selected Prisha's design as one of 3 architecture projects to be showcased alongside business proposals and engineering innovations. It was an honor, even if standing beside her work meant potential social interaction. "Fine," Prisha relented, "but I'm not staying late." The auditorium buzzed with energy as students from various colleges mingled around project displays. Prisha stood awkwardly beside her architectural model, answering occasional questions while Nandini chatted animatedly with everyone who passed. "It's starting!" Nandini nudged her as the lights dimmed. Dean Mehra took the stage, welcoming everyone before introducing the student presentations. Prisha shifted uncomfortably in her chair as engineering and business students presented their innovations. Then Vikram Kapoor stepped onto the stage. Even from a distance, his presence commanded attention. Tall, with broad shoulders and an easy confidence, Vikram moved through his presentation on sustainable business models with charismatic precision. His voice carried through the hall, articulate and passionate as he connected economic viability with environmental responsibility. "The future of business isn't just profit," he concluded, dark eyes scanning the audience. "It's creating systems where environmental stewardship becomes economically advantageous." The auditorium erupted in applause. Prisha clapped quietly, admiring not just his charm, but the genuine intelligence behind his words. His business model would pair perfectly with her sustainable housing design. In another world, perhaps they would collaborate. Later, as students clustered around the refreshment table, Prisha gathered courage. Her design and Vikram's business model shared fundamental principles. Surely a brief conversation wouldn't be inappropriate. She approached where he stood, surrounded by admirers. "Excuse me," she began quietly. "I really appreciated your presentation. I'm working on sustainable housing designs that could complement your business model." But her voice was lost in the crowd. Someone else caught Vikram's attention and he turned away without hearing her. Prisha stood for a moment, invisible in plain sight, before retreating to her display. "Did you talk to him?" Nandini appeared with 2 cups of punch. "No." Prisha accepted a cup, forcing a smile. "It doesn't matter." That evening, inspired by his presentation and frustrated by her own timidity, Prisha wrote a note. Not a love letter. She respected herself too much for that, but a thoughtful commentary connecting their academic interests. She wrote about the potential synergy between his business approach and architectural innovation, signing simply A. Fellow Dreamer for Sustainable Futures, Prisha Malhotra, Architecture. The next morning, she placed it in his student mailbox before she could reconsider. 3 days passed. Prisha saw Vikram in their shared urban planning elective. He laughed with friends, debated enthusiastically with the professor, and never once glanced her way. Her note remained unacknowledged. A week later, while reaching for a book in the library, Prisha noticed a crumpled paper in the recycling bin. Her elegant handwriting peeked through the folds. Without touching it, she knew her carefully crafted message had been discarded without response. Something shifted in Prisha that day, not into bitterness, but resolution. She would pour herself into her work, her designs, her vision. She would build herself into someone impossible to overlook. And 7 years would pass before Vikram Kapoor would have reason to remember, or rather discover, her name. Foundations built alone. 7 years could transform a person entirely, and Prisha Malhotra was living proof. At 28, she walked through the glass doors of Vistara Architectural Solutions as a senior partner, her heels clicking confidently against marble floors. The shy college girl had evolved into a woman whose designs graced the skylines of 3 major Indian cities. "Good morning, Ms. Malhotra," her assistant Rohan greeted her, falling into step beside her. "The team is assembled for the Horizon Project briefing. Mr. Desai mentioned you might want to review the final proposal before presenting." "Thank you. Rohan, have the 3D renderings been updated with the solar integration modifications?" Prisha asked, scanning through emails on her tablet. "Yes, ma'am. Divya completed them last night." Prisha nodded appreciatively. Her team was exceptional, something she had carefully cultivated over 4 years since joining Vistara. Starting as a junior designer, her innovative approach to sustainable luxury had caught the attention of the firm's founder, Rajiv Desai, who recognized her unique vision and promoted her with unprecedented speed. The conference room fell silent as Prisha entered. 8 faces turned toward her expectantly, her team of architects, engineers, and designers who had worked tirelessly on their proposal for Horizon City, a cutting-edge, eco-friendly corporate campus. "Good morning, everyone," Prisha smiled, setting down her materials. "Today's presentation to the clients will determine 6 months of our collective future, so let's ensure we're flawless." For the next hour, they refined their presentation, addressing potential questions and strengthening key points. Prisha led with quiet authority, drawing out ideas from even the most reserved team members while steering the overall direction with precision. "Excellent work," she concluded. "The clients arrive at 2. Rohan will distribute the final presentation sequence." Back in her office, Prisha allowed herself a moment of pride as she gazed at the scale model of Horizon City. The design incorporated living walls, rainwater harvesting systems, and photovoltaic glass. Elements once considered impractical that she had fought to normalize in Indian architecture. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Rajiv Desai, the firm's 60-year-old founder, entered with an unusual expression, somewhere between excitement and concern. "Prisha, do you have a moment?" he asked, closing the door behind him. "Of course, sir. Is everything all right with the Horizon presentation?" "The presentation is perfect," he assured her, taking a seat. "It's about another potential project, one that could elevate Vistara to international recognition." Prisha raised an eyebrow. "Intrigued, Aureus Technologies is planning their global headquarters here in Mumbai. They're looking for something revolutionary, a building that doesn't merely house their operations, but embodies their philosophy of innovation." Rajiv paused. "Their CEO has specifically requested our firm after seeing your work on the Lotus Commercial Center." "That's wonderful news," Prisha smiled, though something in Rajiv's demeanor suggested complications. "There's something you should know," he continued carefully. "Aureus Technologies is the rebranded evolution of VK Innovations. The CEO is Vikram Kapoor," Prisha finished, the name feeling strange on her tongue after so many years. Rajiv looked surprised. "You know him?" Prisha composed herself quickly. We attended university around the same time. Different circles, different departments. She kept her tone neutral, professional. I'm familiar with his company's growth over the past few years. What she didn't mention was how she'd occasionally glimpsed Vikram's rising success in business magazines or news. Features, how his company had pioneered eco-friendly technology solutions, expanding from a modest startup to a global enterprise. She certainly didn't mention the crumpled note from 7 years ago. He's requested a meeting with our senior team tomorrow morning. As lead architect, you would spearhead this project if we secure it. Rajiv studied her. Is there any reason you wouldn't want to take this on? Prisha stood and walked to the window, gazing at Mumbai's skyline, a testament to human ambition and resilience. 7 years ago, she had been invisible to Vikram Kapoor. Now she would be across a conference table from him an equal, perhaps even the one with the upper hand. No reason at all, she replied, turning back with a confident smile. It sounds like exactly the kind of challenge Vistara needs. That evening, alone in her apartment overlooking the Arabian Sea, Prisha found herself pulling out old sketchbooks from her university days. The designs were good, some even brilliant in their nascent vision, but lacked the technical mastery and confidence of her current work. She had built herself, project by project, rejection by rejection, into someone formidable. Her phone chimed with a calendar notification. Aureus Technologies meeting, 10 a.m. Tomorrow, Vikram Kapoor would see exactly what he had overlooked. Recognition in reflection. The Vistara conference room hummed with anticipation as Prisha arranged presentation materials with methodical precision. Her charcoal gray suit was impeccably tailored, her hair swept into a sleek chignon, armor of a different kind than she'd worn in her university days. They're here, Rohan announced, poking his head through the doorway. Prisha straightened, centering herself with a deep breath. Show them in. Rajiv entered first, followed by 3 men in business suits. The third was Vikram Kapoor, taller than she remembered. His boyish charm matured into something more substantial. His hair was shorter now, with distinguished touches of silver at the temples despite being only 35. When their eyes met, there was no flash of recognition, only polite interest. Ms. Malhotra, may I introduce Vikram Kapoor, CEO of Aureus Technologies. Rajiv began the introductions. Mr. Kapoor, this is Prisha Malhotra, our senior partner and lead architect who would oversee your project. A pleasure to meet you, Ms. Malhotra. Vikram extended his hand with a warm smile. His voice was deeper than she remembered, refined by years of corporate presentations and leadership. Likewise, Mr. Kapoor, Prisha replied, her handshake firm and professional. A small, vindicated part of her noted the flicker of admiration in his eyes as he assessed her. Not as a woman, but as a professional force. For the next 2 hours, Prisha led the presentation of Vistara's capabilities, showcasing past projects while Vikram and his team asked insightful questions. She found herself genuinely impressed by his technical knowledge and environmental commitment. This was not merely a businessman seeking prestige, but someone with genuine vision. What we're looking for, Vikram explained as he outlined their requirements, is a headquarters that demonstrates our commitment to sustainable technology isn't just a corporate talking point. We want employees and visitors to experience our philosophy from the moment they approach the building. A manifestation of values, not just a statement of them. Prisha nodded, already envisioning possibilities. Architecture as lived experience rather than symbolic representation. Something shifted in Vikram's expression, a moment of genuine connection beyond professional courtesy. Exactly, he said, studying her with new interest. You understand precisely what most firms miss. The meeting concluded with tentative agreement for Vistara to develop preliminary concepts. As the group rose to leave, Vikram lingered behind. Ms. Malhotra, your portfolio is impressive, he said, glancing at the project images still displayed on the conference room screen. The Lotus Commercial Center particularly caught my attention. The way you integrated water conservation with aesthetic elements was revolutionary. Thank you, Prisha acknowledged, gathering her materials. That project faced considerable resistance initially. Sustainable architecture is still fighting for mainstream acceptance in commercial applications. A battle I'm familiar with in tech, Vikram smiled. Innovation always faces resistance until it becomes obvious in retrospect. An unexpected moment of camaraderie stretched between them, two pioneers in their fields pushing against established norms. For a breath, Prisha forgot their history, engaged by the present connection. "I can't help feeling we've met before," Vikram said suddenly, his brow furrowing. "Something about the way you articulate your concepts seems familiar." Prisha maintained her professional composure, though her heart quickened. "Delhi University, perhaps. I was in architecture while you studied business. We had a few elective courses in common." Recognition dawned slowly across his features, followed by embarrassment. "I'm sorry, I don't recall." "There's no reason you should," Prisha replied smoothly. "We never actually spoke. Different circles as college goes." Before Vikram could respond, his assistant appeared at the door, reminding him of another appointment. He nodded, then turned back to Prisha with genuine regret in his eyes. "I look forward to seeing your initial concepts, Ms. Malhotra, and perhaps we can continue this conversation. It seems we have more in common than just this project." After he left, Prisha stood motionless in the empty conference room, processing the encounter. She had imagined this moment differently over the years, with righteous satisfaction or cool dismissal. Instead, she felt strangely unsettled. The Vikram Kapoor she had just met was not the oblivious, self-absorbed student she remembered, but a thoughtful, passionate professional whose vision aligned remarkably with her own. Over the next 3 weeks, Prisha immersed herself in the Aureus project, working late into evenings and through weekends. Her team noticed her unusual personal investment but attributed it to the project's prestige. "You're pushing yourself too hard," Rajiv commented one evening, finding her still at her desk at 9. "Even revolutionary architecture requires its creator to sleep occasionally." Prisha smiled tiredly. "I'm fine. This project just matters." When the preliminary design presentation arrived, Prisha found herself uncharacteristically nervous. Her concept for the Aureus headquarters was her most ambitious yet, a spiraling structure with terraced gardens that filtered rainwater through the building's core, powering turbines while nourishing interior green spaces. The entire facade utilized responsive photovoltaic materials that adapted to light conditions throughout the day. Vikram arrived alone for this presentation, explaining his team was engaged in critical product development. For 2 hours, he listened intently as Prisha walked him through her vision, asking probing questions that pushed her to articulate the deeper philosophy behind her choices. "It's extraordinary," he said finally, standing before the holographic rendering. "You've captured exactly what I've been trying to explain to other architects for years." "The building breathes," Prisha explained, momentarily forgetting everything except their shared understanding of the concept. "It responds to environmental conditions while actively contributing to its ecosystem rather than merely minimizing harm. Like a technological adaptation of ancient stepwells," Vikram murmured, circling the projection. "Water as life giver and power source simultaneously." Prisha looked at him with surprise. That's precisely the historical inspiration. Their eyes met across the hologram, blue light casting ethereal shadows across their features. For a moment, they were simply two people united by vision rather than divided by history. "Have dinner with me," Vikram said suddenly, "to discuss the project further," he added quickly. Professional caution warred with unexpected curiosity. "I don't typically socialize with clients, Mr. Kapoor." "Vikram," he corrected gently. "And this isn't social. It's a continued discussion of revolutionary architecture over food instead of in a conference room. Strictly professional." His smile held no trace of the entitled college senior she remembered, but rather genuine respect tinged with something warmer. Against her better judgment, Prisha found herself agreeing. That evening at a quiet restaurant overlooking Marine Drive, their conversation ranged far beyond the Aureus project, from sustainable urban planning to their shared admiration for vernacular architecture. Vikram spoke passionately about his company's mission to democratize renewable technology in rural communities. While Prisha shared her dream of affordable eco-housing that didn't sacrifice beauty for function. You know, Vikram said thoughtfully, setting down his glass, I keep having this strange sensation that I've heard your ideas before. Not recently, but years ago. Prisha tensed slightly, focusing on her plate. In fact, he continued, there was a concept paper in my final year of college about integrating traditional water conservation methods with modern building design. It influenced my thinking significantly about sustainability. The approach sounds remarkably similar to your philosophy. The moment stretched between them, balanced on the edge of revelation. Prisha could correct him, tell him there was no paper, only a discarded note from a girl he never noticed. Instead, she simply smiled. Great minds evolving along parallel paths. Perhaps. Later that night, as her taxi wound through Mumbai's glittering streets, Prisha wondered why she hadn't revealed the truth. Perhaps because the past felt increasingly irrelevant in the face of who they had both become. The weight of yesterday. The Aureus headquarters project progressed rapidly over the next 2 months, with Vikram becoming an increasingly regular presence at Vistara's offices. What began as weekly update meetings expanded to almost daily collaboration sessions, where Prisha found herself genuinely enjoying his insight and perspective. Their professional chemistry was undeniable, each intuitively grasping the other's vision and building upon it. You two speak the same language, Rajiv commented after one particularly productive session. It's uncanny how quickly you resolve design challenges together. Prisha brushed off the observation, attributing it to professional compatibility, but privately, she recognized the truth. There was something effortless about working with Vikram, as though they were completing each other's sentences through architecture and technology. Their professional relationship gradually softened into something more personal. Coffee brought to morning meetings turned into lunch discussions that stretched beyond project parameters. Vikram began asking about her journey, how she developed her design philosophy, what challenges she'd overcome. You must have been extraordinary even in university, he remarked one afternoon as they reviewed material samples in her office. I wish I'd paid more attention to the architecture department back then. Prisha kept her focus on the sustainable bamboo composite in her hands. We all had our separate worlds in college. Architecture students were generally considered the sleep-deprived hermits of the design building, while business students were the overconfident suits practicing presentations in every reflective surface. Vikram laughed. Fair assessment. His self-awareness surprised her, this willingness to acknowledge his former shortcomings without defensiveness. It made maintaining emotional distance increasingly difficult. One evening, after the project team had departed, Prisha found Vikram still in the conference room, studying old conceptual drawings she had created during initial brainstorming. These early sketches have something special, he said, without looking up as she entered. There's a freedom in them before technical constraints were applied. That's often the way with initial concepts, Prisha replied, gathering her belongings. Pure vision before practical compromise. Vikram turned to her, his expression uncharacteristically hesitant. Prisha, would you have dinner with me tonight? Not to discuss the project, just dinner. The invitation hung between them, a clear step beyond their carefully maintained professional boundary. Prisha should have refused. Instead, she heard herself accepting. At a small, elegant restaurant tucked away from Mumbai's busy commercial districts, their conversation drifted to personal territories previously unexplored. Vikram spoke of his family's expectations, the pressure that had driven his single-minded focus in college. Prisha shared her struggles as a woman in a male-dominated field, the constant need to prove herself beyond her designs. I was terribly narrow-minded in university, Vikram admitted, his expression contemplative. So fixated on proving myself that I missed everything else that mattered. We were all finding our way, Prisha offered generously, surprising herself with the sincerity of her forgiveness. Later, as they walked along the shoreline with the city lights reflecting across dark water, Vikram stopped suddenly. I found something recently while moving offices, he said, reaching into his jacket pocket. It made me think I was losing my mind until our conversation about university. He extended his hand, holding a folded, creased paper that had been carefully smoothed out. Prisha recognized it instantly. Her handwriting, her words, her signature from 7 years ago. "You wrote this, didn't you?" Vikram asked quietly. "About sustainable architecture complementing ethical business models. About creating spaces that nurture rather than simply house." Prisha stared at the note, emotions churning beneath her composed exterior. "Yes. I thought I'd thrown this away," he continued, his voice tinged with regret. "I vaguely remember receiving it during final exams and dismissing it as another networking attempt. But apparently I tucked it into a textbook instead." He looked at her directly, his eyes reflecting moonlight and remorse. "I've spent weeks trying to figure out why your ideas seemed so familiar, why working with you feels like continuing a conversation rather than beginning one. It was you all along. The vision I've been trying to articulate for years was already there in your note." Prisha took the paper from him gently, feeling the weight of past and present collide. "It doesn't matter anymore." "It does," Vikram insisted quietly. "Because I need you to know that I see you now, Prisha. Not just your brilliance as an architect, but everything about you that I was too blind or self-absorbed to notice before." The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable, stripping away her carefully constructed defenses. For 7 years, she had carried the memory of being overlooked, had transformed it into motivation, into strength. Now, standing before the man who had once failed to see her, Prisha faced an unexpected truth. The past had lost its power to wound her. "What exactly are you saying, Vikram?" she asked, needing clarity beyond emotional implications. "I'm saying I'd like the chance to know you, the real you, beyond our professional collaboration. I'm asking if you might consider allowing me into your life as more than a client or colleague." He paused, vulnerability evident in his expression. "I'm asking if it's too late." The question resonated through the night air. Prisha folded the note and returned it to him, her decision crystallizing with surprising certainty. "Keep this," she said, "as a reminder that sometimes what we overlook contains exactly what we're searching for." She began walking again, leaving him momentarily frozen in uncertainty before he caught up, hope and question in his eyes. "That's not an answer," he said gently. Prisha smiled, her expression softening. "No, it's not. Because the answer isn't simple, Vikram. We're not college students anymore. We're complex people with established lives and careers that are now professionally entangled." "I understand the complications," he acknowledged. "But I'm asking if you're willing to navigate them, if there's a possibility." The vulnerability in his question touched something in Prisha. This man so different from the boy who had casually discarded her note. There was humility in him now, and depth, and genuine admiration for who she had become. "I think," she said carefully, "that we should finish the Aureus project first. Complete our professional obligations without complications. And then," she met his gaze directly, "then we can explore possibilities with clarity." Hope brightened his features, tempered with respect for her boundaries. "I can work with that." As they walked back toward the waiting cars, their hands brushed, a momentary contact charged with potential. Neither reached to hold the other, but neither pulled away. Blueprints for tomorrow 6 months later. The Aureus Technologies headquarters rose against Mumbai's skyline, a spiraling testament to sustainable innovation that had already been featured in architectural journals worldwide. The project that began as Prisha's redemption had evolved into her masterpiece, pushing boundaries of eco-design while remaining grounded in practical functionality. On the evening before the official opening ceremony, Prisha stood alone on the building's rooftop garden, watching sunset paint the city gold. The space around her burst with life. Flowering vines cascaded down trellises, while carefully selected native plants attracted butterflies and birds, creating a thriving ecosystem 30 stories above the urban landscape. "I thought I might find you here," Vikram's voice came from behind her. Prisha turned, smiling as he joined her at the railing. "Just saying a private goodbye. Tomorrow it belongs to Aureus and all its employees. And the birds," Vikram added, gesturing to a sunbird flitting between blossoms. And the bees? And everyone who sees it from a distance and wonders what's possible when vision meets determination. They stood in comfortable silence, shoulders nearly touching as they watched the city transition from day to evening. Their professional relationship had remained precisely that throughout the project's completion, respectful, collaborative, and deliberately distant. But beneath the surface, something deeper had continued growing, nurtured by shared purpose and mutual admiration. "The project's complete," Vikram said finally, turning to face her. "Our professional obligations fulfilled beyond expectation." "So they are," Prisha acknowledged, her expression careful, yet open. "I've been offered a visiting professorship at Delhi School of Architecture," he continued, "teaching sustainable business applications in architectural contexts. I'm considering accepting." Surprise flickered across Prisha's features. "That's unexpected, is it?" Vikram smiled. "Working with you these past months has reminded me how much I enjoy the educational environment, the exchange of ideas, nurturing new perspectives." "You'd be leaving Aureus?" "Stepping back from daily operations. The company is established enough now to function under the executive team while I remain on the board." He hesitated. "It would also mean I'm no longer your client." The implication hung in the air between them. The professional barrier that had kept them cautiously separated would no longer exist. Prisha turned back toward the horizon, gathering her thoughts. "Why architecture education? Why not business school?" she asked finally. "Because I've realized something fundamental through this project," Vikram replied, his voice earnest. "Business creates systems, but architecture creates experiences. The intersection is where transformation happens, where theoretical sustainability becomes lived reality." Prisha studied him, recognizing the genuine passion behind his words. This was not a man making decisions to impress her, but someone whose worldview had genuinely evolved. "And what about us?" she asked quietly, finally addressing the unspoken question that had lingered between them for months. Vikram took a careful step closer. "That depends entirely on you, Prisha. 7 years ago, I failed to see what was right in front of me. I'm trying not to make the same mistake twice." "We're different people now," Prisha reminded him. "You don't really know who I am beyond this project." "I know enough," he countered gently. "I know you fight for your vision without compromising core principles. I know you lead your team with both strength and kindness. I know you prefer coffee black in the morning, but with cream after noon. I know you sketch preliminary designs exclusively with 6B pencils, but switch to 2H for technical refinements." His attention to these small details, things she hadn't realized he'd noticed, touched her unexpectedly. "I'm not asking for certainty, Prisha," Vikram continued. "Just possibility. Dinner without project discussions. Conversations without professional obligations. The chance to know you fully, as more than the brilliant architect who transformed my company's physical presence." Prisha considered his words, weighing them against the memory of disappointment she had carried for so long. That pain had shaped her, driven her toward excellence, independence, confidence. But perhaps it had served its purpose. Perhaps it was time to let it go. "I'm leaving for Singapore next week," she said finally. "Vistara is opening a branch office, and I'll be overseeing operations for the first 3 months." Disappointment flickered briefly across Vikram's features before he composed himself. "I understand. Your career..." "The Delhi School of Architecture often collaborates with Singapore's Urban Development Institute," Prisha interrupted, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "If a visiting professor wanted to arrange an exchange program, it wouldn't be entirely unreasonable." Hope dawned in Vikram's eyes. "Are you suggesting—" "I'm suggesting," Prisha said, turning fully toward him, "that I might be willing to explore possibilities, across cities, between institutions, around professional obligations, but slowly, deliberately, with purpose. Like designing a structure," Vikram suggested, understanding in his expression. "First the foundation, then the framework." "Exactly. Testing each element for strength before moving to the next phase." Vikram's smile deepened as he reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers with gentle certainty. I've always appreciated thoughtful design processes. As twilight descended over Mumbai, they stood together on the rooftop of their shared creation. Not as the overlooked student and oblivious senior they had once been, but as equals who had found their way back to each other through winding paths of growth and change. "It won't be easy," Prisha warned, though she didn't pull her hand away. "We have separate lives, careers, commitments." "The most revolutionary designs rarely follow the easiest path," Vikram replied, squeezing her fingers gently. "But they're always worth the complexity." Below them, the Aureus headquarters began illuminating floor by floor, each light activated by motion sensors to conserve energy, creating a pattern of gradual awakening that mirrored their own journey from past to present. From invisibility to recognition, Prisha leaned slightly against Vikram's shoulder, allowing herself to imagine possibilities beyond the careful boundaries she had maintained for so long. Perhaps some stories weren't about dramatic revelations or instant reconciliations, but about the quiet revolution of growth, about becoming people capable of seeing each other clearly across the distance of years and change. "Dinner tomorrow night?" Vikram asked softly. "After the opening ceremony?" "Yes," Prisha answered, her voice sure and clear in the gathering darkness. "I think it's time we properly begin." Above them, stars emerged one by one against the deepening sky, each a distant light, patient and enduring, illuminating possibilities that had always existed, waiting only to be seen.